Okay, hello everyone. So for this Fearless Fridays, I'm with Kyrie, who I actually met back in October, I believe, at the Digital Nomad Conference 7 and 7. It was the second year in Barcelona. So really happy to have you, Kyrie. Maybe you can start by just saying hello and telling us what you were doing in your previous life and what you're doing now.
Sure. Hi. So my name is Kyrie. Previous life, I was doing events in a tech company in Vancouver. And that was a long time ago. Yeah. And then after that, jumped into the digital nomad lifestyle and ended up creating my own digital nomad conference after doing everyone else's conferences. So that's been quite the roller coaster. And like Anna said, it was our second one last year, and we had the pleasure of having you speak there. So that was awesome too. So, that's kind of like the where I previously was. Moved in from business school, finished it, and then went straight into a job in Vancouver for a few years, and realized that that wasn't quite my style. Even though it was quite flexible and lovely. And then have been freelancing and nomading ever since. So,
And with your freelancing now, is that still in the event management space, or do you complement that now with other work as well?
yes, I do freelancing and in events for a few clients, like retreats and things. I'm trying to move into it a lot more and shift away from my other like online business management clients and see what's going on there. But yeah, so moving into more of an event thing, but still kind of hanging out with a few clients that I have that I've had for a while and that I quite enjoy working with still. So
Great. So that sounds great. So it sounds like you've
all over
been
the place.
using, well, not really. It sounds very focused. I mean, compared to some people and compared to where I was, definitely. But it sounds like you're really using the skills that you had previously, but that's just sort of building a lifestyle around that. So I wonder, I know you said it was a long time ago, but what was the moment at which you decided you wanted to change and I guess embrace this digital nomad lifestyle?
Yeah, so I guess it kind of came about. It's actually quite an interesting serendipitous story. So I was in Playa, which is interesting because I'm in Playa del Carmen right now in Mexico. And I met two nomads, Shay and Cassie. I don't know if you met them at 7 and 7. They were there last year as well. And they just dropped the term digital nomad. This is about 3 years ago, I guess. And I was like, oh, what is that? Like, that sounds like something I could do. And then I ended up researching like a crazy person and trying to find anything and everything. And I couldn't find a lot of information for women
Oh.
or people in this space that have like been digital nomads. But I did come across Kit, who is actually a co-founder of 7 and 7 now, and just randomly reached out to her for coffee because she happened to be in Vancouver where I was. And she was leaving like 2 days later. And she's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll meet you. Newbie nomad, not even a nomad. So I appreciate that she took the time. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. And then I was like, had the seed planted and I'm like, I need to get out of here. I need to do this. I need to be a digital nomad. So I transitioned from my role as a event coordinator at the company I was with into their customer support team, because I'd been with them for a few years. So I knew kind of the product and could slide into that role quite easily. And then took that remotely to Cambodia. So that's where it all started. And then, went from there.
I have to say, I love your sort of story of the three of you who run 7 and 7, just because you're just the perfect triangle. Talk about serendipity in terms of an events planner and a tech guy and then a marketing person. I think no wonder. And I said that to a kid at the time, that your event was so well planned and perfectly oiled. It was pretty much the best one I've ever been to. So I think it's fantastic that you guys, that also helped you to get into the digital nomad space as well. So that sounds very easy.
Yes.
So did you come up against any challenges in terms of fears around the new lifestyle or just sort of difficulties in making it happen?
Totally. I think everyone probably faced their set of challenges moving into this sort of lifestyle where there's not any rules set for you, so you're creating your own.
That's true.
Um, so I think buying the ticket going to Cambodia was great. I had the ability to use my previous job to help me figure out what was going on there. So that was kind of like a training wheels, I suppose. I didn't jump right into it. I had remote work and was getting paid in Canadian dollars and living in Cambodia, which helped me find the time and space to figure out what I wanted to do with it, which was quite nice, and I really appreciated that. And then I think one of the biggest challenges was jumping from the standard hours and like knowing I had that consistent paycheck into something more client based and trying to figure out how to adjust finances and budgeting while traveling and clients and like when they would pay you. I'm awful with numbers. It's like you said, so it's great we have Nick for finance for 7 and 7 because I'm like, help me. So yeah, I think most of the challenges were around budgeting and like just figuring out the systems for how I deal with clients and how that can become consistent so I don't have to stress every month about money coming in. And then the second thing was community, but I also, having created 7 and 7, kind of created one of my own, I suppose. So I guess that's kind of the extreme. I don't think everyone's going to jump out and plan a conference and try to find their people, but it just so happened that I fell into that, and it's been a true like magical journey because I've had all of these amazing people come into my life where I think loneliness can be kind of a huge factor when you're jumping into remote work lifestyle or becoming a digital.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned creating your own community there. So where else did you get the support? And you connected with Kit, I guess, initially. How did you overcome the challenges and the financial bits and all these things that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so again, connecting with Kit and Nick was a huge one because Nick's just like such a finance-focused person. So anytime I'm like, help me, like I need. So they kind of took me under their wing as like their little nomad project. So I've had the amazing support from them, and then just I guess creating the community of 7 and 7's been more of a passion project than like a job, obviously, because it's just so great and fun to do. And I couldn't have asked for like a better situation with the three of us and like you said, our skills, like things that, Kit wouldn't want to do, I would love doing and vice versa. So I think that's played a huge part in creating the community and overcoming that, and having that like remote team to bounce ideas off of was huge. So having them to combat loneliness was big for me because previously working in a company where I was the only person that was remote was quite a challenge. And then moving into, I worked with Buffer for a little while, which was like a fully remote team, which was a totally different experience. And I loved it. And it was really interesting, their communication and how well they connected with each other. So taking some of that stuff and like applying it to freelancing and then 7 and 7, our team was something that helped me overcome that challenge of moving in. And then as for budgeting and finances, I'm still working my way through those ones, but it's like it's getting a lot easier. It's becoming more consistent. I think it's just a matter of diligence and really paying attention to what you're doing. It's easy to lose track when currencies change all the time, and you're like, oh yeah, this is what it is, right? But it ends up being 7 because you're in a new country all of a sudden. So.
And what about the hours? You mentioned, the difference between having sort of a formal job with certain hours and now traveling and so on. How do you manage that?
Yeah, so that requires a lot of self-discipline, I find. It's very easy to get distracted when you're in new places and new cities and you want to see things. Yeah. So I don't know which one I actually prefer, to be honest. Sometimes I kind of go back and forth between like, should I get a remote job just so that I have that like sense of security in those hours, or should I keep doing what I'm doing? So I think like juggling the hours now is, I've found a system that kind of works for me. So I'll do a few hours in the morning, and then I know that I have clients in Southeast Asia area, and I'll call with them in the evening. So I usually take the afternoons off now and just have that as my time. But I don't stick to like a strict schedule either. So I think it can be both exciting and challenging at times to navigate.
Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely. There's pros and cons, and I guess it might evolve with time that we prefer one thing, and then after a few years we crave sort of more stability, or vice versa. So it's always good to listen to what you're enjoying, I suppose.
Totally.
Great.
Same with like traveling when you're like jumping around all the time. So you need to know when to slow down. Like, I'm going to take a year and stay in a place. Like, it's necessary to listen to yourself that way too.
Yeah, and it's hard when there's so much going on with businesses and friends and travel and everything to sort of try to listen to what's going on, to sort of get rid of that noise and just think, okay, what do I want? How am I feeling right now? And so on. So definitely relate to that. So what's the best part of your lifestyle right now?
I think The flexibility is probably
Mm,
the best part. I mean, I travel with my partner. She's great. So we like it's nice to have a little unit to
mm,
travel with. Prior to that, I was traveling alone, and that's a different lifestyle and
mm,
experience. So I think it's been fun to like experience the world with someone else,
mm,
which is new to me,
mm,
and be able to go out and explore in different ways and actually have someone to be like, hey, remember that awesome sunset we saw? Instead of like being
mm.
alone and being like, hey, look at those pictures, you know? So,
Yeah.
um, I think that's probably the best part of my lifestyle right now. Um, Plus, like 7 and 7 is great. It's
Mm,
nice to have a distinct thing that I'm working towards for another 5 years. So
mm,
it's kind of directed the travel path and like my life for the next few years,
mm,
which feels good. And it's exciting to see the growth of that
mm,
over the next few years, hopefully bigger and better, of
mm.
course.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure.
I think that's the
That's
best
true,
part.
yeah.
Best part of the flexibility.
Mm.
Sorry.
Flexibility, but that sounds like you have that framework. So both, as you said, having someone to travel with gives you a bit more stability, and then having the team with Kit and Nick, and having knowing that the next 5 years are going to be continuing with this project with those 7 continents. I think that's great. So you've sort of got the balance of the two.
Yeah, I think there's like this mentality of nomads or travelers that are like, I just need to be like doing new things and I can't commit
Mm.
to anything all the time. And then I realized that like some of the things I've committed to are like my favorite things. So I'm like,
Okay.
oh, maybe I'm not as like, you know, jumping around spontaneous as I thought I was. But yeah, it's a very like it's not a consistent feeling like most feelings. I mean, like sometimes you're like, I need to go do this, and others, you find
Mm.
the comfort in the strategy, I guess.
Yeah. But as you said at the beginning, I mean, when you're making it up as you go along, and there's no rule book or roadmap to follow, and I think that it gets exhausting. To be honest, the more and more I speak to people, certainly who are a bit further down the line, a lot of people do find that they crave. You want to eventually focus on one idea and build that, or have a bit more time in a place, or have something. If we're going to be doing this for the next 10, 20, 30 years, I think it's very exhausting to reinvent yourself every few weeks, and every day ask yourself, oh, what am I going to do now? So I think having that kind of those seasons and frameworks and things can really support you. I think they're almost necessary. So it's great to hear that you're finding those are the best projects that you have as well.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's very interesting thinking of that need for like something more stable sometimes, and like
Mm,
people just like this is the only way to nomad or this is the only way to go
mm,
freelance. Like you said, like breaking the rules is the best part of it. Like you can create
mm,
whatever you want. And you're like, if I want to stay somewhere for 8 months, I can. That's what this lifestyle provides,
mm.
right? So I think that's really something to focus on, and people don't have to do it a certain way. And there's no certain way
Yes.
to.
No, 100%. Your own definition of success, as I
Yeah.
always say. So, yeah. And
Yeah, exactly.
what advice would you give someone, either, I suppose, someone who's just for the first time now hearing, the idea of digital nomad? Maybe that's a good place to start. What do you wish you had known then? Or do you have any sort of wise advice to give now that you've been experiencing it yourself for a while?
Yeah, I think the number one piece of advice we kind of touched on it was like there's no right way to do it, so
Mm-hmm.
do what feels better. I think the whole time you'll be like teetering on this level of like fear, like am I doing this right, and like needing to just push yourself, and then like comfort. So there's like these two like that are kind of
Mm,
hard to find, um,
so true.
because it's like, do I, like, if you're just starting out and you're wanting to go, it's like, do I book the ticket? Okay, book the ticket. So there's like all these little points of like fear, but then you also need to find like, financial stability in the ways, in like a place that you feel
Mm,
comfortable, and like, don't just go to Chiang Mai because everyone's going to Chiang Mai.
mm,
If you don't like Chiang Mai, go somewhere else. So I think it's like trying to find your own path is the tricky part. I'm still doing it. Like
mm,
after 3 years in, I don't know like where I would want to stay more time. I know a few places that are kind of
mm.
like you want to go back, but yeah, I think the number one piece of advice would be to just I don't know, just it's hard. It's hard. Just create your own path, I guess, is
Mm.
the number one piece of advice. Don't
Yeah.
don't like follow other nomad paths, but definitely reach out if you need any sort of support. Ask people about it because everyone's excited to share. So
Yes, very true. Yeah, learn from other people, but then sort of create your own path. As you said, don't copy people or follow everyone else because everyone's going to Bali or whatever it is, but choose your own places. And you can always change, right? So if you
yeah,
go somewhere and you don't love it, you can always move on, and vice versa. If you love somewhere, you can always come back or stay there for longer. So nothing is permanent.
I think that's, yeah. One of the biggest things that I learned was like, if I don't like a place, not having to like wait out the Airbnb contract, just be like, okay, find a way to go to somewhere else, you know?
Yeah, that's a
Like,
good
don't
tip.
sit here miserably for
Yeah.
like 2 months, like cancel it, go somewhere else.
Love that.
So I think that's kind of a thing to keep in mind. And that just comes with like more confidence once you've been doing it for a while. Like you realize the flights that you like and you realize the comfort levels that you need and that kind of.
That's true. Well, like with everything, like with your business too, you have to at the beginning just try everything, work with different clients, do different projects, and then gradually you both work out what it is you enjoy doing, but also you build the confidence to say no to certain things. And I guess it's the same then with sort of your personal travels and so on as well.
Totally.
Great. Okay, well, fantastic. So where can we find you if people want to hear more about 7 and 7, any other work that you're doing? Where are you in the digital space?
Digital space. I am at 7and7.co, so that's the conference itself. And my email is just as easy. It's Kyrie, Kyrie at 7and7.co. And then otherwise, I have my website, which is kyriemelnyck.com, and that's where you can reach out if you want to know like anything about events or digital nomad stuff or general. I'm happy to answer and connect with anyone new because I love it. It's part of the life stuff.
Amazing. Well, I'll make sure to link to those. And I'll also say to everybody watching that if you do want to go to Colombia, which is now the year 3 continent, then that's later this year. So do check that out as well.
Yeah,
Great.
I would love to see you there.
Yeah, I wish I could go maybe next year.
Next year.
Yeah, definitely. Every other year, I think. And then there's Antarctica in the future. Someone suggested
We'll
Mars.
take it,
We've got
we'll
all
take
sorts
it.
of ideas. Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, Kyrie. Always so interesting to hear, the different paths and fantastic. I'm happy that you met Kit and also now that you're so sort of content traveling with your partner and so on. So enjoy the rest of your time in Mexico and let's see where you end up next.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you.